So let us begin. Okay, the correct answer is 4 terminals. It's a 4 terminal device. The next question coming up. I have already discussed this before that substrate terminal is connected to ground in integrated circuits, but source terminal is not always connected to the substrate. It can be, a bias connected in between, a battery connected in between them. Yeah, so the answer is false. Yes, the saturation region is the correct answer. Yeah, in the saturation region, the ID changes with VGS, and there is a very minor change in the VDS. So the correct answer is VGS. Yeah, enhancement MOSFET is the very obvious answer. The last question. Yes, for the NMOS to enter into saturation when VGS is greater than VTH. When it is in edge of saturation, when VGS is equal to VTH. So the correct answer is greater than VTH. Okay, so that was the quiz which was remaining yesterday. So we'll start with today's topic. Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to AVLSI Lecture 2. So today first we are going to start with analog design trade-off. Okay, I hope the screen is visible. Yeah. So I will read few statements and we'll go back to what it means. So in digital circuits, basically there is a trade-off mostly between the speed and the power dissipation. But in case of analog circuits, design must deal with your multi-dimensional trade-off, which consists of speed, which consists of which may consist of power dissipation, gain, or supply voltages, etc. Okay, so along with the gain and other parameters like power dissipation, supply voltage, linearity important for amplifiers also. Okay, we can say that your input and output impedance decide the interaction between the preceding stage and the subsequent stage. With each other. Might decrease the performance of the other. Therefore, we need to choose an acceptable compromise, and that is represented very well in the form of a analog design octagon. Is this visible completely inside one screen? This is the analog design. Let me see if I can do it for full screen. No, let it be. Yeah. So this is what we call it as a analog design octagon. So in an analog design octagon, all these parameters are related to each other. So for example, in the outer octagon, your parameter noise over here, it's related to both linearity as well as power dissipation. And your linearity in turn is related to your noise as well as gain. Supply voltage is related to gain as well as voltage swings and so on. Okay. Similarly, there are some other trade-off as well. For example, like power dissipation and voltage swing. Now, how do you see this? Internal connections, power dissipation and voltage swing, and gain and input impedances. Here we have input output impedances and gain. They are also related and they also trade off with each other. Then we have one more, supply voltage and linearity. Okay. So these are the other trade-offs which we have to take care in analog design. So analog design, one or the other parameter. This entire is interrelation between the parameters is called as your analog design octagon. Okay, it has the gain. Gain is related to linearity, supply voltage. Voltage swing is related to supply voltage and speed. Input output impedance is related to speed and power dissipation, and so on and so forth. And there are internal relations also, like linearity is related to speed as well as supply voltage. We have already talked about power dissipation related to voltage swings and linearity. So all those things are internally related. So there should be a comfortable and smooth trade-off between them. Okay, we can't just keep on or maximizing some parameter without taking care of the others. We have to investigate how are the other parameters also behaving along. So let us consider one simple example of voltage swing versus power dissipation. Is there a relation between them? Voltage swing and power dissipation? Yes. internal, we have inside that octagon, we have the relation voltage swing and power dissipation. So let's see a classic example. So let's consider input is of amplitude 20 millivolts. Okay. And we have designed an amplifier which will provide us a faithful amplification. So at the output, we have a gain of 8. Okay. So actually this should be 10 millivolt. By mistake, it is written as 20 millivolt. This should be 10 millivolt. So gain of 8 will be make it as 80 millivolt. So output will be at peak to peak value 160 millivolt. Input is peak to peak value. It is 20 millivolt only. Peak to peak value 20 millivolt. So here we have 160 millivolt and 20 millivolt with a gain of 8. Okay. So for a faithful amplification, you should get a proper full swing at the output. And what do you mean by full swing at the output? The MOSFET is continuously on in both the half cycles. Means the positive half cycle, MOSFET is continuously on, as well as in the negative half cycle, it is continuously on, which will lead to increase in the power dissipation. Now, what is the AC power dissipation given by? VORMS into IORMS. Okay, I hope you know this formula. VORMS into IORMS value. This is the power dissipation formula. And let's say that you don't have this full voltage swing. Okay, so what will happen is, if my voltage swing is large, my power dissipation also will be large. Agree? Because we have full VORMS and IORMS also, maximum values. Whereas let's say I have a reduced voltage swing. Let's say the negative half cycle is not there. We have some circuits which will produce only positive half cycle, correct? So we have a reduced voltage swing. So what will happen? The MOSFET is continuously on only for one cycle over here, which will lead to decrease in the power dissipation. Obviously, because you now have a reduced voltage swing, so you have a reduced power dissipation. So what's the relation between the two? Voltage swing larger means a larger power dissipation. Everyone following? Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can you give a quick, a feedback? Everything is proper?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine. So now let us consider one more example. Let's see the relation between, yeah, thank you. Let the relation between gain and input output impedances. In the analog octagon, there is a relation between the gain and the input output impedances. Now let us see how they impact each other. Now, gain is given by V out upon V in. Okay. And how is V out? We can write it as I out into R out, right? And V in can be written as I in into R in. So let's say if you want to increase the input impedance, and why we want to increase the input impedance? Because it's good for the impedance matching in case of voltage amplifiers. So according to this formula, if I increase the input impedance, my gain will fall down, which I don't want. I don't want my gain to fall down. And then secondly, we want to increase, the only way to increase the gain might be that R out can be increased. And if R out increases, it's bad for impedance matching. Okay, because for for a ideal voltage amplifier, we want the output impedance to be as low as possible. Okay, so R in increasing, it's good for impedance matching. R out increasing, it's a bad for impedance matching. And here we can say that the gain, higher gain is good for the amplifier, and a lower gain, gain decreasing is a bad for an amplifier. Correct? So that's how we compromise between the gain and the input output impedances. Now let us see one more example. Now this is the relation between the linearity and the speed. Is there a relation between linearity and speed? Let us see. Yes, there is an internal relation, linearity and speed in the analog design octagon. So what's the relation? Yeah. So can anyone tell me what is this? V out versus V in is called as voltage transfer characteristics of inverter. You have studied this in your BVLSI, correct?
Yes,
Can
sir.
you name the 4 points on this VTC curve? Anyone? Do you recollect?
VIL, VIH, VOL, and VOH, sir.
Okay, perfect. So all these 4 voltage levels are determining the noise margin levels, correct?
Yes, sir.
Noise margin low and noise margin high. Fine. So if I can say that, yeah. So here is my logic 1 and here is my logic 0. So this is the range which is marked in yellow color. This will decide the speed. Now what does it indicate? How fast my output is changing from logic 1 state to logic 0 state. So this is my range, linear range. Okay, this is my linear range. Here in either one case, if it is logic 1 or logic 0, here we have very less change. Okay, because here we have either output is at constant 1 or output is constant 0. But here in this range, the output is falling drastically with the respect to input. So this is the switching speed, how fast response to the changes in the input. That we define it as a switching speed. So if this linear range is very, very small, we can say that the switching speed is fast. Are you following? That means my output is falling from logic 1 to logic 0 very quickly. So once this linear range is very, very less. Okay, so that's how the relation is. Now let's say that we have a wide switching speed. Okay, some inverters do exhibit this kind of characteristics, correct? So let's say from logic 1 to logic 0 we go, it takes more time to switch from logic 1 to logic 0. So we can say that the switching speed is slow. But at the same time, what is happening? The linear range is wide. Now, what do you mean by linear range wide? The output is sensitive to the input changes. Why it is so important? Can anyone explain why outputs should be sensitive to input changes?
So between 0 to 1, we can get a large number of other values as well, as per required application maybe.
Yes. With respect to digital domain, well, it should be opposite. In digital domain, we want this.
Yes, sir.
In digital domain, we want higher and higher speed. But in analog domain, you will be surprised to know that a linear range is most important. Why? I will tell you the reason why. We are no way going to operate in this either logic 1 or logic 0 state. We are going to operate in the entire range. Okay, so what do you mean by linear range? As long as my input is responding, even the smallest change in the input is been reflected at the output. That is what you mean by linear range, very wide. So that means if I have a wide linear range, I can have more flexibility in the input. Fine, it is good for an amplifier. So it can even pick very small changes in the input and respond to the output. So that is what the advantage of linear range means. And we don't only want a good amplifier, which will provide a good amplification or a good input output impedance. We want an amplifier which is a linear amplifier. And if you have a wider linear range, that's a very good for a analog amplifier. This is good for inverters. This is good for amplifiers. Okay, so there is a trade-off between the linear range as well as the switching speed. Fine. So this was all about the analog design octagon. Anyone has any questions? Any questions here? Yeah, it is important. In they can ask you a 5 marks question on explain analog design octagon and interrelations between the parameters. So I've given explain 3 examples: voltage swing versus power dissipation, gain versus input and output impedances, and thirdly linearity versus speed. Okay, so this is very, very important before we discuss AVLSI concepts. Yeah. So ready for the next one? So we'll go to AVLSI 2.2. Okay. So in 2.2, we will be discussing the following topics. How do we bias analog VLSI circuits? Then we'll discuss the issue of resistors and integrated circuits. Then we'll also discuss the different regions in the MOSFET output characteristics, MOSFET as a resistor, and a very first expression of Ron. We will derive that. So let us start with biasing analog integrated circuits. So why there is a need for biasing? When we talk about amplifiers, amplifiers means what? We are applying AC voltage and we get AC voltage at the output. But to turn on the amplifier, amplifier is sleeping. We want to turn it on. We want to wake it up. So to turn on the amplifier, we should apply a DC voltage to it. Correct? We in the form of VDD, we call it, right? So to operate, what is the need of biasing? The need of biasing is to operate the MOSFET in the desired region of operation. Now, what do you mean by desired region of operation? N channel can be useful in the two regions of operation. One is triode region and one is saturation. Well, in cutoff the current is zero, so it's of no use to us. Right now, we are only concentrating on the triode as well as saturation. And well, the conditions for the triode region will be VGS greater than VTH, and VDS is less than VGS minus VTH. Okay, so that means we have to bias VGS and VDS. Correct? Well, for it to be in the saturation, VGS should be greater than VTH, and VDS should be greater than or equal to VGS minus VTH. Actually, equal to sign is for the edge of saturation. Okay, and here also we say that we have to bias the voltage VGS and VDS. Correct? So need of biasing is to operate the MOSFET in the desired region of operation. Now, how do we bias a MOSFET device? So we bias the MOSFET device by using DC sources. One option is you apply a supply voltage to the drain terminal. You apply the supply voltage to the gate terminal. Okay. Other option is you use resistors. So here you have only one supply voltage VDD, and we use resistors. We use potential divider to generate VG from VDD. Now this is what you have learned in your lower semesters, ECAD, BEC, subjects like this. It was resistive intensive biasing. We were not caring about whether the resistors are impacting anything, but in analog VLSI design, when we are making the MOSFETs inside the integrated circuit, we don't require so many. I mean, we should resistors are not used for biasing techniques. Okay, so these are the two techniques. How do we bias a MOSFET device? Fine. So let's move on to the next one. Now let's understand why resistors are troublesome in integrated circuits. Now, I think you must be knowing this formula. Resistance is equal to resistivity into length divided by cross-sectional area, correct? R is equal to rho L by A. You must have studied this in physics. So that means a higher value of resistance requires more space as the value increases, right? Because if you increase the value of resistances, your length increases. And you might have heard of layout, right? Layout, you have heard of layout, MOSFET layout? Yes or no?
No.
When we manufacture, yeah. So we will talk about that later. Right now, I'm not discussing that in detail. We have analog layout part. So what really happens is consider like this. This is the screen. I will explain it with an example. Let me use some. So let me, let me give you an example. So let's say this is my integrated circuit. This is my chip. Okay, and this chip contains around 100 transistors. How many transistors? 100 transistors in this much space. Now let us see how much space resistors take. This is the space resistors take. I'm just taking an equivalent. I'm just giving you an equivalent. This is the space a single resistor, let's say of high value takes. And this is the space hundreds of MOSFET takes to build up. So basically, when we make a manufacturer in integrated circuits, right? So we give to the to the machine, to the foundry layout file. Okay, we call it as a GDS2 file. So in that file, we have all the layouts available. Layout means length and width. I mean, this is the just a front view structure. It has the length and width of a MOSFET will make up the layout. Correct. So the space requirement inside the integrated circuits for a resistor is very, very high. Okay, one resistor might take up the space of 100 MOSFETs. So MOSFETs can be scaled down to a very small level. You might have heard of that. Nowadays we have around 100 nanometer channel length MOSFETs also available. Okay, so if you go to 100 nanometer, that means you can fit more and more MOSFETs together. Whereas a resistor, let's say this is a 100K resistor. A 100K register might occupy the same space as 100 transistors. So that's why there is a problem of space requirement for a for the resistors. We don't use resistors too often in the integrated circuits. This is very crude way of explaining you. I will be showing you all the actual layout later, not right now, but this is the a very basic structure. Okay, registers occupy more space in integrated circuits. Yeah. And also, since you have so many registers, the static power dissipation is more. You must be agreeing on this point, right? The power dissipation will be more if you have more resistors. And whenever there is a voltage drop across the resistor, the power is also dissipated in the form of heat. And this is bad for VLSI circuits because VLSI circuits require devices to be compact, correct? And the device should consume minimum power. And resistors are very bad in not providing both of them. They occupy more space as well as they consume some power, which is dissipated in which is a wastage of power, correct? So it's a bad for a VLSI circuits. That's why resistors are in integrated circuits. Well, in discrete circuits, we use a lot of resistors inside the breadboard we fit in, right? So we can use them in discrete circuits, but in integrated circuits, no, resistors are not a good option. They are bad for the VLSI circuits. Any doubt in this? We will very soon talk about the layouts. I will show you actual simulation and show you that how one single MOSFET and one single resistor, how much comparable space they take. Fine with this? Now let's move on to the next part. Yeah. So this we have already covered yesterday, just a revision. Can MOSFET replace resistors? Yes, they can. So as you can see, this is the revisit of ID versus VDS characteristics. We have a triode region marked in light blue color. And here we have a saturation region marked in the purple color. So as you can see, RO is the resistance in this when the MOSFET is in saturation, given by RO is given by delta VDS upon delta ID, and Ron is given by 1 upon slope. As you can see, there is a very small section in the graph, ID versus VDS graph, which is a straight line. Okay, so this we call it in the deep triode region. We'll come back to it. Okay, so this Ron is evaluated as in the triode region for a very small values of VDS. Ron will be delta VDS upon delta ID. So you don't get confused ki both Ron and RO has the same formula. Delta VDS upon delta ID, RO is, and Ron is also delta VDS upon delta ID. But their operating region is different. So while measuring small RO, we are operating MOSFET in saturation, and while measuring Ron, we are operating MOSFET in the triad region. You must have done, first part of experiment number 1, wherein you have calculated this RO and Ron. Okay, and from your readings, you must have got the value of RO to be greater than value of Ron. This is true actually. Okay, so this is the information about the can MOSFET replace resistors? Yes, they can replace resistors. Now, let us move on to the different section now. So this is about the MOSFET output characteristics. So there are the different sections, regions in this. So here this is my output characteristics, VDS versus ID. I have 4 operating regions over here. First is my saturation region, where my VDS is greater than VGS minus VTH. Then I have an edge of saturation. As you can see this dotted line, VGS minus VTO locus. So this edge of saturation means when VDS is equal to VGS minus VTH. So this is my edge of saturation region. Then we have a triode region, wherein the VDS is less than or equal to VGS minus VTH. This is my triode region. Actually, I should have written over here only less than, but it's okay. And there is one more region. There is one more region over here, which we call it as a deep triode region. So in this region only, I can say that my current versus voltage relation is linear. And when my current versus voltage relation is linear, we can use it as an amplifier. And what is the condition? VDS is very less compared to twice VGS minus VTH. So VDS will be very small as compared to twice VGS minus VTH. So this is something new information which you are gaining. Okay, so there are various different regions of operations in a MOSFET. Let us say first saturation region, edge of saturation, triode region, and deep triode region. If you want, you can take a print screen of this to keep it handy with you. Okay, so we should also take care of this deep triode region also from now on. Any doubts so far?
No, sir.
Okay, so let us move on to the next part. Okay, it's taking some time to load. So here in this, I have made this into boxes and I put numbers over there. So this will be easier to track which section will come next. Okay, for your reference. Okay, yeah, it's loaded now. Actually, it's taking some time. We are discussing the equations in the triode region, the equation of the MOSFET in the triode region. Okay, give it some few minutes. I mean, a few seconds to load up. I think it will load up fast. Okay, here, achha, it's still not loaded actually. Yeah. So, what is the current in the right? This we used to call it ID linear. Now, what is the equation given by? ID is equal to, let me expand it a little. Yeah, current in the, we are in the triode region. Okay, and we are writing the current equation in the triode region. So current equation is W by L, okay, into VGS minus VTH into VDS minus half VDS square. You remember this we have derived under gradual channel approximation, right? GCA. We have derived this equation, MOSFET operating in the linear region, but now we call it as a triode region. Okay, the same equation can be rewritten as follows. ID can be written as mu n Cox by 2 W by L into twice VGS minus VTH into VDS minus VDS square. It's the same equation written differently. So this 1.1 and 1.2 are same. So this is the current equation of a MOSFET when it is operating in the triode region. Now we have to be very, very careful about the terminology. Now listen very, very carefully. VGS minus VTH is known as the overdrive voltage. What it is called as? Overdrive voltage, which we can write it as VOV. Remember, whenever I say from now on overdrive voltage, it means VGS minus VTH. Next, W by L is known as the aspect ratio. W by L is known as the aspect ratio of the MOSFET. Okay, so whenever you hear the word aspect ratio, it means W by L. And if VDS is less than or equal to VGS minus VTH, we say that the device is operating in the triode region. If it is equal to, I mean, if VDS is equal to VGS minus VTH, we say that the device is operating either in the edge of saturation or edge of triode region. It's the boundary between the two. So either we can call this region as edge of saturation or edge of triode region. Both are correct actually. Okay, so what we have revised, we have noted down the current equations in the triode region in terms of VGS and other parameters. So we have got one equation over here. We have rewritten it in the some different form, and we have terminology. VGS minus VTH is called as the overdrive voltage. W by L is known as the aspect ratio, and this is the the condition for the MOSFET to operate in the triode region. Any doubts in this? You will remember this overdrive voltage and aspect ratio. Yes. So now we will come on to a very first derivation. Now I will give you one advice. There will be lot of derivations and concepts which are there. So if it is a derivation, at least I don't expect that everyone will write every step. At least write the heading and the end result. Whatever you feel it's important to you, you can jot it down in your notebooks. Okay. So how can your MOSFET can be used as resistors? So we'll derive the expression of R on. Okay, so let me go back to this characteristics. We have seen this characteristics, and in the deep triode region, we say that whenever VDS is less than or equal to twice VGS minus VTH, my MOSFET operates as a resistor. So let's expand this section and see what it is here. It looks like this. So for very small values of VDS, now VDS can be as small as 0.2 volt or 0.15 volt, very, very small. So in this, if you see carefully, your relation between your current and your voltage is a linear curve. So that means we will have a resistance kind of behavior here. Okay, delta VDS upon delta ID will be a resistance, and that is what is your R on. So this is your deep triode region. It is not visible in an entire big characteristics like complete output in output characteristics, but it is visible when you expand it. So what is the condition for a MOSFET to be in deep triode region? Your VDS will be very, very small as compared to twice VGS minus VTH. So note down this condition, deep triode region condition. MOSFET will be in deep triode region when VDS is very, very small compared to twice VGS minus VTH. Okay, you got the idea how this you have a linear relation between, whenever you have a linear relation between uh, voltage and current, we can say that particular device characteristics can be linearized. Can act as a resistor. So yeah. So if VDS is very much less compared to twice VGS minus VTH, that is for small value of VDS, your device is operating in the deep triode region. Okay, and from 1.1, where is my equation 1.1? Here it is. So from this equation, what we can do? We have to approximate VDS to be very, very small as compared to twice VGS. VDS is very, very small to twice VTH value. So what will happen is this term comparatively, since VDS has to be very, very small as compared to twice VGS minus VTH, this term will be gone. This VDS square will be going. So if this VDS square goes, you have left out with this term. So ID will be approximately written as mu n Cox W by L VGS minus VTH into VDS. So that minus VDS square by 2 term is gone completely. So this is the equation for the drain current when the MOSFET is operating in the deep triode region. So if you're jotting it down, note down this formula. So this current formula is valid for the deep triode region. We started a little late, 5 minutes. So let me take 5 more minutes and we'll complete today's topic. Okay. So ID is approximately written as ID is approximately equal to mu n Cox W by L VGS minus VTH into VDS. Okay, it is valid only for this condition, for deep triode condition. Now, everyone following this, how we got this equation? Yes or no? Hello. Any doubts in this equation? Okay. So if you see carefully, mu n and Cox are constant, technological constant. W by L is also a constant. So as you can see over here, VTH is also a constant, correct? And here, if you see carefully, the ID, there is no square term at all. Fine. So hence we can say that the drain current is a linear function of VDS over here. And overdrive voltage is almost mostly constant also. So that means the part from the source to the drain can be represented by a linear resistor. In a MOSFET, from source to drain, we can represent by a linear resistor whenever we are operating in the deep triode region. Okay. And how can we define R-on? We know R-on can be defined as 1 upon slope, correct? And what is slope formula given by? Delta ID upon delta VDS. We have seen that before, right? I don't have to go there again, right? See, R-on is given by 1 upon slope, and slope formula is delta ID upon delta VDS. So what we need to do is, we need to partially differentiate the expression of ID, equation number 1.3 with respect to VDS. We will differentiate this expression with respect to VDS. And why we want to do that? Because we want to find delta ID upon delta VDS. So when we partially differentiate this equation with respect to VDS, rest all the terms are constant, correct? So what will be delta ID upon delta VDS? Mu n Cox W by L into VGS minus VTH, correct? That VDS term will disappear because delta VDS upon delta VDS will be 1. So what will be R on? 1 divided by delta ID upon delta VDS. So R on will be given by 1 divided by mu1 Cox W by L VGS minus VTH, correct? And this is the formula which you must have used in your lab to AVLSI lab. And this formula is valid in the deep triode region. So this is the condition for a deep triode region. So if you're noting down something, note down the first step and the last step. So first step is this, 1 upon delta ID upon delta VDS. Last step is this, the R on expression. So they can ask you in the exam, derive the expression of R on for a MOSFET to be in the deep triode region. So R on will be given by the formula 1 upon mu1 Cox W by L into VGS minus VTH. Anyone having any doubt in this?
No, sir.
So yeah, and yeah. So what are our inferences from the deep triode region? What do we understand? So what we can do is between the source and drain, we can represent it as a resistor, which is controlled by VGS. So that means to say, that goes without to say, that if VDS is less than twice VGS minus VTH, the device operates in the deep triode region. In this region, the MOSFET can operate as a variable resistor whose value is controlled by the overdrive voltage. Overdrive voltage is VGS minus VTH. The device R on will be independent of VDS and will only depend upon the overdrive voltage. See over here, R on value, it's nowhere there is VDS term. It depends upon the overdrive voltage and the aspect ratio. Okay, so that's what we have written over here. So let us see now, R on is given by mu n Cox W by L VGS minus VTH. So there are 4 terms over here. First is red color, mobility. Okay. Second is the gate oxide capacitance. You know from the last semester, BVLSI epsilon OX upon TOX, which is epsilon OX upon TOX, which is gate oxide thickness. TOX is the gate oxide thickness, correct? And that these are constants actually. Then the third one is the aspect ratio. Third one, W by L, is the aspect ratio, and the fourth is the threshold voltage. Now, out of mobility, gate oxide capacitance, and the threshold voltage, all of them are technology parameter. You must have heard of 90 nanometer technology, 45 nanometer technology. So all are technology parameters whose values are provided by the foundry. So these are constants. These parameters are not in our hand, right? Correct. So this threshold voltage is called as zero substrate bias threshold voltage, which we call it as a VTO. This threshold voltage is assuming that your source and the body are at the same potential. Okay. So if I want to change R on, how can I change it? I can change it by controlling the aspect ratio. And aspect ratio is nothing but the width and the length of your MOSFET. So this is the controlling design parameter wherein I can control the value of R